shines despite the clouds, and the dawn is dusk, is dawn, is dusk, is day. Farmers rise and dream to feed the world. The world awakes to feed the heart. Hearts beat while 1,000 flags are waving, and the farmer sees a dream has played on hearts. We will have peace. We will because we must. We must because we cherish life, and believe it or not, as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Are you black like night or red like clay? Are you gold like sun or brown like earth? Gray like mist or white like moon? My love for you is the reason for my birth. Peace can start with just one heart, from a small step to leaps and bounds. A walk becomes a race for time, and the brave child calls out from the crowd. We will have peace. We will because we must. We must because we cherish life, and believe it or not, as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. And as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Ancient eyes are watching in the night. The stars come out to guide the way. The sun still shines despite the clouds, and the dawn is dusk, is dawn, is dusk, is day. Farmers rise and dream to feed the world. The world awakes to feed the heart. Hearts beat while 1,000 flags are waving, and the farmer sees a dream has played on hearts. We will black like night or red like clay? Are you gold like sun or brown like earth? Gray like mist or white like moon? My love for you is the reason for my birth. Peace can start with just one heart, from a small step to leaps and bounds. A walk becomes a race for time, and the brave child calls out from the crowd. We will have peace, we will because we must because we cherish life. And believe it or not, as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. And as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Ancient eyes are watching in the night. The stars come out to guide the way. The sun still shines despite the clouds, and the dawn is dusk, is dawn, is dusk, is day. Farmers rise and dream to feed the world. The world awakes to feed the heart. Hearts beat while 1,000 flags are waving, and the farmer sees the dream has played on heart. We will have peace. We will because we must. We must because we cherish life. And believe it or not, as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Are you black like night or red like clay? Are you gold like sun or brown like earth? Gray like mist or white like moon? My love for you is the reason for my birth. Peace can start with just one heart, from a small step to leaps and bounds. A in a powerful time. These are the first of the
And for
last.
y'all too, thank you for joining us on such a wonderful, joyous occasion when we're here to celebrate and be together in community. My name is Migdalia Garcia, and I'm the inaugural director of the Peace Center at the Alamo Colleges. Yay! Thank you so much. Please know that lots of love, support, and compassion were poured into making that a reality and really a dream for me. So I want to say thank you. It's nice to see familiar faces and friends and loved ones, so thank you for being here. Today we dedicate this blessing to Tom Keene. And so he has not been with us for 1 year today. So I think also how appropriate. So what I invite you to do is let's honor all the people who are resting in power, who are not here with us today, who in the past year we've missed their footsteps. So if you so feel called, you can raise up their names so we can be in community with them. I invite you to do that now.
Tom Keene.
We walk in their footsteps. So I wanted to thank NOWCast for being here. Charlotte Ann is not here with us today, but we know that she is here with us, watching us online, and welcome to all the people who are virtual. And we wanted to thank the core team of the Peace Center. So if you're a part of the core team, can you stand up and be recognized, please? Core team, some people are up here, some people are out there. No recognition, nobody wants to stand up? Do I need to call out names now? So know that in our hearts and in your hearts, you are recognized. So thank you for all these years, 30 plus years, keeping the Peace Center going. And also, Deborah Martin, thank you. Deborah Martin, thank you. Andy Hill, here we go. They have to,
Okay, we're standing.
okay, the subversives. All right, there we go. Here's the community. So for 30 years, the Peace Center has relied on being an all-volunteer organization. So we really thank and appreciate all the time and talent that is given to the Peace Center. I'd also like to thank Northwest Vista for its commitment, for its space, for its staffing, for its funding, for its publicity, for putting up balloons and the Alamo Colleges. So I really appreciate y'all being here. So now we prepare the space. So I'd like to invite Julie and Cynthia up.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, great. The actual blessing, as it has always been, is for everyone who works for peace in San Antonio. That means all of us gathered here at Northwest Vista College, and every last one of us who is participating on screen watching virtually today. And I'll welcome Cynthia to give us the land acknowledgement.
With gratitude and humility, we acknowledge that this blessing takes place in what is now known as San Antonio, Texas, the home of and the traditional lands of the Tankaka and Payaya people of the Kwahotaken Band, original and indigenous stewards of this land. We further acknowledge this geographic era was a crossroads of multiple colonizing powers that have sown overlapping identities into the region, including indigenous, Spanish, African, Anglo, Canary Islander, Mexican, and many, many more. We further recognize San Antonio is home to the 10th largest Native American population in the United States today. We honor and express gratitude for the rich diversity that shaped the multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multi-faith nature of San Antonio today.
Take a moment, pause, and help us prepare this space here at Northwest Vista and also on screen by listening and hearing these words one more time in song and on screen.
Ancient eyes are watching in the night. The stars come out to guide the way. The sun still shines despite the clouds. And the dawn is dusk, is dawn, is dusk, is day. Farmers rise and dream to feed the world. The world awakes to feed the heart. Hearts beat while 1,000 flags are waving, and the farmer sees a dream has played on hearts. We will have peace. We will because we must. We must because we cherish life. And believe it or not, as daring as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful path. Neither the first nor the last great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life on the great peace march.
Thank you for being with us today.
Are you black like night?
Good afternoon. My name is Neil Lewis. I'm part of the Peace Center, and also I teach Peace and Conflict Studies here at Northwest Vista. The Peace Center has been around for almost 30 years, and since 2006, the Peace Center has celebrated the blessing of Peacemakers. It's a joyous time together for us to be together in community. The blessing marks the beginning of the national day. This is the 64th day of the season of nonviolence, and it honors all of the peacemakers in San Antonio. It starts January 30th, which marks the date of Gandhi's assassination, and it runs through April 4th, the date of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. It's an intentional time for nonviolence, peacemaking, and compassion. It offers ways for us to heal, transform, and empower our lives and our communities. Since 2008, during the Blessing of the Peacemakers, the Peace Center has announced and appointed the first San Antonio Peace Laureates, a local voice of wisdom and experience to speak for peace and justice in San Antonio. We want to welcome and note our previous Peace Laureates, many of whom are on stage, and also I believe some are also in our audience. I'd like to read off some of those folks that are here with us. If you can, or if you feel able to, if you want to, you can stand as I say your name. We have Martha Ann Kirk and the Sisters of Charity of Incarnate Word. And I may call extra people. I don't know if they're all here, and I don't know all of them. So Rabbi Samuel and Lynn Stahl. We have Rosie Castro. I think she's here. Dr. Rajam Ramuthi. We have Mario Salas. We have Patricia Castillo. Rebecca Flores. She's not here. And we have Deb Myers for Nikki Valdez. So we have Cappy Lawton and Lionel Sosa. Are they here? And then also we have a Golden Rule, is it the Golden Rule winner? Is that what we call them? Laureate? Jackie Clunch is here also, I believe. Today, in honor the growth of compassion during these challenging times, and in honor of the Peace Center's and Compassionate San Antonio's growth, we'd like to announce that the work that has been done, all that work of the Peace Center has been shifted to Alamo colleges, and specifically housed here at Northwest Vista College. We are so excited about our local and national project, Compassionate USA, and we'll tell you more about that later in this program. I'd like to introduce Dee Ellis Phelps, as she has written a poem to celebrate the occasion.
From poetry cafes to stand-ins on the courthouse steps, from prayer vigils to peace polls, from potlucks to peace laureates, from dessert and a movie with deep discussion to interfaith dialogues, from publishing peace-centered books to teaching workshops on nonviolent communication, from prayer beads for every hand to signposts in every yard, from marching to making music, from the Mennonites to the Catholics. This peace has re-centered us repeatedly for more than 27 years. From the minds and hearts of founders Rosalind Collier, Ann Helmke, and Susan Ives, and from the minds and hearts of a core group of generous volunteers, came compassion in action. From intention to mayoral declaration, from San Antonio, a nice place to visit, to San Antonio, a compassionate city. They have led us, and we are here to thank them, to honor them, to bless them, as they pass the light of peace on to the next ones who will now carry the light. The ones who will now lead us as we remember from each of our hearts and minds, with each act of compassion, to teach peace, to live peace, to be peace.
I'd also like to, Eric Cooper and the San Antonio Food Bank, they were also laureates, so thank you, Eric. So if you're wondering the mystery, how these wonderful people got up here, right, what did they do that was so special? Can you say because they're badasses? Can you say that? So these brilliant people are parents, they're activists, they're administrators, they're faith leaders, They're healers and radicals who, in public and private spaces, nurture hope, stamp out injustice, lovingly make room to be alongside those who are hurt, those who are mad, those who want to advocate for change, holding vigils for people who were killed. Tyree Johnson. Peace Laureates transformed and continue to transform our San Antonio. They are steadfast and they generously give of their wisdom and their time and their talent. The people you see up here are special. The people down here are also special and potential laureates next year, 2024. So today feels extra special for me because these three people, these three women, these three mothers that we honor today, I've known a very long time. And it's kind of, I see Diane Dusterhoff in the audience, one of the best, biggest feminists I know, who then never received the award that she was a feminist because she was always on the committee and she never got the award. That was them. We've had this for 17 years and they have not been recognized because they never wanted to be, because it's not about them. It's about us. It's about all of you. The committee was subversive and we picked them anyway. So they today are getting the award. So Rosalind, Anne, Susan, thank you for being comadres, for co-together. They've been co-ing a long time. So we welcome them, and I want to first invite Deb Myers, who will be introducing our first laureate.
Good afternoon and welcome. What an honor and privilege it is to be here this afternoon for a blessing on our work together as peacemakers and to honor the peacemaking firm of Collier, Helmke, and Ives. The CH&I, the chi of the Peace Center since its beginning. And to specifically introduce to you Rosalind Falcone Collier. You know, the Peace Center has been a weaver of us, the threads, into a beautiful garment that has covered the city in compassion. Thank you. Thank you. I met Rosalind over 25 years ago at the Catholic Chancery, of all places. Nikki and I, had been invited by Pat Castillo to be part of AVE, the anti-violence effort at the Chancery. The next thing you know, we were serving on the Archdiocesan Justice and Peace Commission, where we pushed the social justice envelope to its very edges until it burst at the seams. As an animator of the Peace Center and a weaver of peace, Rosalind has been involved in a wide variety of groups and organizations, from the Mayor's Commission on a More United San Antonio, to Victor Offender Mediation, to Tri-Faith Dialogues, to the Forest Dwellers. I could go on, right? And she's been there at many different intersections, from house blessings to the death penalty. She's been a busy woman. We reminisced the other day and exhausted ourselves just talking about it. We laughed and wondered how it all got done, together as a community of peace seekers. That's how. Rosalind is a leader, a supporter, an advocate, and a worker, with a gentle and convincing spirit and energy that inspires and brings out the best in those she encounters, whether through its mediation, through spiritual direction, education, retreats, writing, Reiki, and whatever else she does. So here's a little story. Very shortly after meeting her, she invited Nikki and I to participate in the Women's on Pilgrimage retreat through a Catholic church. a 3.5-day retreat out at the Omega Retreat Center in Bernie. Nikki and I tilted our heads and looked at her and each other with unbelieving and questioning ears and eyes. The conversation went something like this. Are you sure you want 2 lesbians on a Catholic women's retreat? And she said, why not? It'll be a wonderful time. We hesitantly said yes, and shyly arrived to the retreat, and before the weekend was over, we felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. And she and that group of women, many of whom are here today, have walked with Nikki and I, and now me, through the mountains and valleys of life. She and they have become family. That's who Rosalind is, a woman with a huge heart and open arms. And it's through that simple spirit of invitation that she has created individual and community peace of heart, peace of mind, peace between communities, peace in San Antonio, peace on earth, making peace our birthright. She has, and I'm sure she will continue, now that she's a Peace Laureate, to teach others and community as we all wish to learn as individuals and a community together. Rosalind, we're truly grateful for your invitation. Please come forward.
Thank you, Covita. Woo. Y'all are all here. You showed up. Yay. Thank you. Woo. I'm going to drop something here. This isn't going to work. Wait a minute. Can this go down? I'm trying. There you go. Now it's going to work. Oh, my goodness. Blessed are the peacemakers, all of you. Thank you. Thank you. You got here just in time. Okay, Deb started me sniffing and crying. Here we are. Look around you. Look around in this room. Look at all the peacemakers here. Thanks to everyone here. Thanks to everyone at home who's watching on NOWCast. And a big thank you to all who encouraged me along this path. My family, my friends, and especially my husband, Jim, who has been steadfast, showing up for 56 years of peace events. Let's take some time for a minute. We heard the song. We are talking about peace in our city. Let's put our hand on our heart and take a few breaths and find that peace inside ourselves. Just place both your hands on your heart, or any place that feels like it is opening to more peace and more compassion. Take a breath and connect with all of the compassionistas in this theater and beyond. And breathe out peace into our community of San Antonio. Inhale again, constellating and connecting in compassion beyond this space and into the entire world. Hold your hands on your heart. I'm going to read you a quote that I just found yesterday. And it made me think that I've dreamt this at the Peace Center, that we are, and here's the quote, a small band of servants and fools who wend their way into moments and places with a carpetbag of stories, songs, poems, dances, melodies, snippets of wisdom, and spools of connecting thread. With these, we seek to weave containers in which genius sparks can ignite the lantern of our soul in every person here. We can feel that light of peace and compassion here present. So I've been reminiscing over the last few days. Woo. Didn't work. Hold on. Rudy Harst, what am I doing here? There you go. Almost 30 years ago, I moved here to San Antonio after my father's death to be with my mother. And I saw an article in the newspaper about a Lutheran pastor doing peace work at St. Philip's College, part of the Alamo College District. So I opened the white pages of the telephone book. Remember those telephone books that had white pages? And I began to call all the Helmkes listed. There were only 4 or 5. Good thing her last name wasn't Garcia. This may have never happened. So the next day or a day later, we had breakfast at Mama's Cafe. And the rest is her story. It's been said that intention is the most powerful ability that we human beings have, our intention, our attention. And I just learned on Thursday that that root of that word means to stretch, like tension, to stretch something. I had not thought of that. So I loved that connection, that our intention. Ann and I decided that day at Mama's that we would co-labor for peace in San Antonio and leave the world a better place for our children and our grandchildren. We plotted and planned, working out of the trunks of our cars, marveling that we had the best jobs in San Antonio. Exciting, full of promise, meeting so many others, a lot of you are here today, who spoke our language. So many who are with us here today, and the others who we've honored at the beginning, who have left the planet and still watch over us. Our first big event was at the Municipal Auditorium. It's now the Tobin Center. A New Generation of Peace was the name of it. We welcomed the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Arun Gandhi, the daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., Bernice King, the granddaughter of Cesar Chavez, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, to share their stories and wisdom with all of us. We called ourselves the Lucy and Ethel of peacemaking, never quite sure, but always nudging each other forward. And soon, Susan jumped on board to bring some adult supervision. We held prayer vigils at murder sites. We flew to D.C. to join others working to end the death penalty. For 5 days, we listened to loud boos every time the word Texas was mentioned. So on Sunday at the plenary session, we worked up our nerve. We kept saying, you go, you go, no, you go, no. We both walked up to the mic and let the 500 attendees know that we didn't need their boos or hisses. We needed their help in Texas. They listened to us, and they planned their next conference 2 years later in San Antonio. We conducted peace laboratories with students to learn about alternatives to violence. As I look back, so many amazing people and events miraculously appeared before our eyes. The most significant one was over 2 decades ago. We had decided to relocate from our Irish flat in the parking lot of First Presbyterian Church to the Mennonite Church. All summer, that summer, there had been problems in the Holy Land. There was a lot of violence. So we were planning an interfaith evening with poetry, song, skits, dance, stories, and a final blessing by a Christian pastor, a rabbi, and an imam to send a message of peace and fellowship to the Holy Land. We actually moved the Peace Center the weekend of September 8th and 9th, 2001. Then on Tuesday, 9/11 happened. So we had the event on Thursday, the 13th of September. And instead of the usual suspects, the 40 people who showed up, including my husband, for every event, we had 200 people in the Mennonite church and another 100 spilled out onto the sidewalk and parking lot. The event was one that will always remain in my heart. People asked us how we had planned it in only 48 hours. We became an interfaith resource for the city of San Antonio. So fast forward to today. So now it's the time for another generation of peace and compassion here at Alamo Colleges and right here at Northwest Vista. We are excited to be a part of moving this work forward through the Alamo College District. Embracing a younger leadership. Hey, we're all on Medicare. I mean, what can I say? Andy pointed that out to us. You have him to thank. We didn't know until he pointed it out. Leadership with their own plans, younger leadership with their own plans for peace, borrowing and refining what was nurtured with love and rewarding surprises these almost 3 decades. We thank our ancestors for showing us how to walk in compassion, and we are so blessed to help students and educators find their own pathways to peace in our city and in our nation. This has truly been a blessed journey of hope, of peace, ups and downs, disappointments, surprises, but most of all, friendship and relationships with all of the people here on the stage and all of you and many, many more. I want to close, but I want you to help me close. I've always wanted to do this, and a friend of mine suggested it. I want you to help me do this. I want you to do your phones, you know? You see this at concerts? Yeah, okay, here we are. Ignite the light of compassion in San Antonio. And I have a quote from Lin-Manuel Miranda. You know, the Hamilton guy? He says, wake up, eyes up, hearts up, minds sharp, compassion on full blast. Okay, let's go into our more compassionate future. Thank you all so much. Okay.
One spirit, one voice, the sound of one makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. This is the 18th annual blessing of the Peacemakers. Today, I have one of the most pleasant duties of my mayoral tenure, and that is to talk about Ann Helmke. She is my friend, my colleague in finding innovative approaches to an old problem, and a woman whose brilliant spirit lights our city. Buddha once said, "Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared." I think you'll all agree with me that Ann lights up every place that she visits, spreading of peace, compassion, and hope, perhaps the most important skill set of a leader. Her inspirational attitude is nothing less than awe-inspiring. Ann is the first faith liaison for the city of San Antonio, and I believe that she's outgrown that title. In fact, I think probably a more appropriate title would be the Human Super Collider, or maybe the Sherpa of Compassionate San Antonio. And I'm going to talk to Eric about that on Monday, by the way. She's doing a lot of trailblazing in this role, and it goes well beyond San Antonio. I work regularly with Ann in that capacity, and I can attest that her impressive creativity is matched by her determination and work ethic. If there has ever been a need in our lifetime for compassion, it is always present, it is now, but it was certainly on display over the last 3 years, and I think Ann has risen to the occasion in every single possible way. Here are a few other highlights from Ann's career. Ordained Lutheran minister, teacher in theology and spirituality at the University of the Incarnate Word and Texas Lutheran University, director of spiritual services for Haven for Hope, co-author of several books, including Peace is Our Birthright. Here's one you'll be familiar with, co-founder of the Peace Center. And a little bit closer to home for me, someone who keeps my stepmother now occupied as a San Antonio resident. Of course, she also raised a wonderful family while she was toiling to improve our community and our world. And Ann has been the guiding light of the development of a joint City of San Antonio and Alamo Colleges project that will soon be sweeping the nation, and that is Compassionate USA. And I'll be sharing more about that in just a moment. By June, we expect Compassionate USA's curriculum to be fully developed, and we'll make it available to communities around the country to help them instill the presence of mind and dedication to compassionate behavior and thought in their communities. When she became San Antonio's first faith liaison almost 6 years ago, I don't know if Ann anticipated her work in this role would become nationally influential in such a short period of time, but that is indeed what is now happening. Ann is a first-tier peacemaker and well-deserving of the title of 2023 San Antonio Peace Laureate. Congratulations, our friend Ann Helmke.
Thank you all. Super Collider. Here, I thought he was going to announce his promotion or something, right? I was just like, Super Collider. Okay, so, and then Rosalind just keeps pushing at that Medicare thing. I am not on Medicare yet. I want to be clear. I could be. You're right. I could be. Way to go. Those are my double nickel friends down here, same age as me, but I could be. And I was reminded while I was listening to everything and thinking and pondering, but some of you, I'm sure, read The Tipping Point. I mean, it's been years now. It was on the bestsellers list, but that's been real influential with our work across the years. And part of the thing that we discovered about us is that there are like 3 kinds of movements or entities that you need to tip whatever movement or message you're trying to tip, right? So one of the examples in the book is Paul Revere. There was somebody else who rode that night, by the way. And you'll get the door prize if you know who that guy's name is, by the way. I don't remember it. But the 3 of us literally have those parts. And we determined that that's why we work so well together. We didn't know that, but that's what we discovered in reading the book. And so when you go to form things, you should read The Tipping Point, find those elements, what you're missing, to help move things forward. I really appreciate the fact that Rosalind gave so much of the history. There were some stories in there that she kind of glossed, and they were so much prettier than they actually happened. So we have lots of stories to tell if you want to know about the real background of it all. But one of the things that we always did and have always talked about is deep listening to the world and what's happening in the world and how we approach that. And especially deep listening, and that's one reason the Peace Laureates even exist, but deep listening to those who have gone before us and the wisdom that they have to share, even when we think they've outgrown us or we've outgrown them, right? That deep listening. About a week ago, I was talking to my 98-year-old mother, and I realized I had a question for her. I didn't know this story, and I asked her what her earliest memory was. You know, that earliest memory. And she kind of, well, I don't know, you know. So I gave her mine, so she had time to think, right? And I said, well, my earliest memory was at the farmhouse, or we're on a farm in Illinois, and was in the kitchen. And my sister's here, and I'm pretty sure she'll remember it too, but we were given baths in the kitchen sink. So you know how big that would be. I mean, that didn't last forever, just so you know. So, but it was quite lovely too, because there was a window above the kitchen sink farmhouse, and this was summer that I remember, and the window was open, and so there was this soft breeze across me. I don't know how old I was. I would guess 2 maybe, but that's my earliest memory, is being able to sit in the sink and Mom giving a bath. And so then she came back with this story about a man named Jack Bowles from when she was growing up, nearby village of about 500. And on Sunday morning, Jack Bowles would sing in the Christian church, and the windows would be open. There was no air conditioning there. And you could hear, according to my mother, you could hear Jack Bowles sing across the entire village. And she would sit out on the back steps at the house and listen to Jack Bowles. That was her first memory. And she wasn't in school yet. She knew that. It wasn't in school, but his voice would resound. Probably the strongest learning that I've had during this journey of the Peace Center is that peace truly is our birthright. You know, that peace that I can still feel from having that bath in the sink, right? You know, that, we're born into that. We're born with that. I'm so grateful that neuroscience has now told us that compassion is in our DNA, peace is in our DNA. It's nice to confirm that. Not everybody has that great first memory that I have. I get that. And then I wouldn't say either that our life was necessarily idyllic. And again, I have 3 family members here who could tell you all sorts of things. But, you know, we had our share of things that happened, now things that we might call trauma or adverse childhood experiences. We weren't immune from any of that. There were terrible farm accidents. There were cancer, and we grew up right next to a cemetery, so death was very much a part of our lives. But still, coming into the Peace Center and being with people and community, really our benefits package is just getting to know other people. That's really the only reason we do this. But to possibly move the world as such is really a humble honor, to be about the work and to be able to participate in that and how that might play out in people's lives and how we might move it like Paul Revere moved, I can't even talk, Revere moved some people as well into action. And what amazes me, and I was just thinking about it again this week, is actually being alive to see some of the things happen. You know, like, we realize that we may never ever see some of the things that we would want or we envision, but we have really been able to see things, real things happen. The gang summit and truces that were formed and drop and violence from that, and I don't even know if I've told the Peace Center, so I'll tell all of you, to the city now, much like it planned a strategic plan for housing, a strategic plan for the sustainability of this earth, we're now starting a process on violence prevention strategy. So that's 30 years since we did the gang summit. We've also watched more and more people coming together. I remember at the gang summit, the biggest problem we had was the gangs that were, you know, nonprofits and congregations not willing to work with each other. Honest. And because most of it had to do, especially nonprofits, with money. Everybody was, you know, going for the same pot of money. But now, not that they still aren't doing that some, but almost all the efforts now that we see in the city are collaborative. Because we also know from science, the reason the human species is still on this planet is not survival of the fittest, it's because of collaboration. That survival of the fittest has been debunked. It's because we work together. We just don't know as many of those stories. And I have watched huge things happen in that collaboration. So I'm pointing to my friend Bill Neely down there in the San Antonio Community Resource Directory. Nothing like it in the United States. Nothing. We're forming cohorts of congregations in all 10 council districts, people working on that geographical, near geography scale, congregations, and working with schools, then working with businesses, then working with nonprofits, and what they're really doing, besides getting 20 hours of mental health training, is that they're creating community. And as we grow larger, it's the only way we're going to be able to grow larger and heal and grow healthy, is if we're working more and more local and being in our community. We now have 20 of those cohorts. My dream is that we'll end up with 100, 10 in each of the 10 council districts. And if we add another council district, that'll be 110. We'll just keep adding to that. So there's just so much happening, and then I really appreciate the mayor mentioning Compassionate USA, which we're also going to hear a little bit more about, I hope. And but to think that San Antonio, you know, is lighting the way, is the pilot, it's lighting the fire for the entire country to kind of get this, I don't know, shot in the arm, some basic language. What does it mean to be a compassionate, you know? And how do we go about that? So we're watching these things happen. And I have to say that that's probably what has surprised me the most. I don't know if I ever thought I would see any of our effort, but all that was important was that we were taking the next step in doing it. So I've brought us all a gift today. And I'm not going to unroll it, but this is the birth certificate for the Peace Center as it moves forward. I brought other 3 items that have been signed along the way. One of these has, I saw it this morning, has Tom Keen's name right in the middle of it. But there's this poster down here, it's from 1999. My youngest daughter has some artwork in it, but it was first signed as a commitment to the making of peace in San Antonio. We also have a copy here of the 2017 City Council resolution that this guy signed, and it does have his signature on it. So I'm going to unroll this afterwards at the end. I'm going to place it here, but this is the Charter for Compassion, which has become our new, and I think not so new anymore, it's good over a decade long now, but I think it's the most important document, the most important writing of our era. But I want to invite everyone here to come forward at the end and put your name on it, because we all birthed this together. This was not even about 3 people. So my vision, I was asked to share my vision. This is my vision for the future. Mass tipping point. A global cultural shift. So research also tells us 10%. So starting this last Sunday, I started working on getting to 200,000 people in San Antonio to say yes to moving this forward. Once we hit 200,000 people, we're told the culture will naturally shift. The entire culture. You can do your own math for the state of Texas, for the country, for the planet, but I'm working on San Antonio. And I truly believe that peace is our birthright, just as much as that sweetness of any baby having a bath, just as much as Jack Bull's voice, that all of our voices are heard clear and strong because it is our birthright. Thank you.
This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too.
Well, first off, where is Susan? I tell you why I couldn't recognize her, because her signature hat is missing. Well, it's with great pleasure that I was offered the opportunity to actually be a substitute for Susan. And Susan, Susan is they say all that glitters is not gold. Well, in this case, the glittering is gold, and that's Susan. She's gold. In reading over her bio and stuff, it was real simple. No wonder she puts up with me on Facebook. I could see that. She obviously is a native of Philadelphia area, growing up in what was then what they call semi-rural Bucks County. Oh my goodness. In an area rich with Revolutionary War era history and filled with fascinating people, many of whom she actually got to meet as a child, and that includes Margaret Mead, Pearl Buck, James Michener, and who actually ran for Congress in her district. She learned to be a peacemaker early on in the Girl Scouts, and that's absolutely amazing. I was still throwing rocks at the sanitation workers at that, which celebrated the sisterhood of girls all over the world, and that is super important in this world now. And from her Lutheran Sunday school teachers who never forgot that we were all children of God. Susan graduated from Drew University, a small Methodist liberal arts college in North Jersey, with a major in political science. And in high school, she was a champion debater and model United Nations delegate. She spent a record 4 semesters on off-campus programs, including an Appalachian sociology semester in Kentucky, that's hard work, where she interned with the Office of Economic Opportunity, and a Washington, D.C. semester where she was a congressional intern, and a semester in British government in London. So that's quite impressive. After college, she says she bummed around Europe for a few years, and I know about bumming around, working part of the time as an aide in an English nursing home, caring for, among others, a veteran of the Boer War, a former police chief of Hong Kong, A.A. Milne's next-door neighbor who claimed to be, or who claimed that Christopher Robin was a real brat. And I'm still trying to figure out who is Christopher. Anyway, she also sold encyclopedias, and I can't miss this opportunity. A student, Susan, actually asked me the other day, not that long ago, what is an encyclopedia? It's the same as the white pages and yellow pages. When she returned home, she worked for almost a year as a copywriter for an ad agency where her biggest client was Hershey, and she told me everything but the chocolate. When she decided to join the Army, her father asked a very serious question: whose Army? And I had that similar question asked of me. But anyway, Susan was awarded a direct commission as a second lieutenant, one of the last to be commissioned in the Women's Army Corps before it was disbanded. And that, to me, is groundbreaking. Her first assignment was as a personnel officer in the Division of Artillery in the 101st Airborne Division, where there she was assigned as the military district of Washington at Fort McNair Army Recruiting Command, Advertising and Sales Promotion Division at Fort Sheridan outside of Chicago. And finally, in the 5th Corps at Frankfurt, Germany. From there, she was deployed to northern Iraq as a public affairs media liaison officer for Operation Provide Comfort, the repatriation of the Kurdish people. She left the Army as a major after 15 years and moved to San Antonio, where her husband John was raised. Susan became very involved in Alamo PC, which is a computer user group in San Antonio, with which at one time more than 5,000 members, and it was the second largest club in the world. Eventually, she was elected president. Over the years, she taught thousands of people how to get onto the internet, and I need to talk to you about that. A new thing then, and how to design web pages. It was a web design that got her involved in the Peace Center. More than 25 years ago, she was recruited as a volunteer to create the Peace Center website and never left. A real shining diamond. During those decades, she created vast amounts of web content that is used by peacemakers all over the world. She started the Peace Center's publishing company, a Peace Center, which is Peace Center Books, and designed a few dozen books as well. If you ever received a postcard from the Peace Center or saw a poster, odds are Susan designed it. She's taught dozens of classes, organized events, washed dishes, that's something I don't like to do. Anyway, moved furniture, and attended conferences. During that time, she was also, for a few years, a weekly op-ed columnist for the Express News, and is a recipient of the San Antonio Bar Foundation's Peacemaker of the Year Award from 2005. She says she's not done yet, so stay tuned for the next chapter. I'm sure it's coming up. So with great pleasure, I want to thank her for all of her work. I want to invite her up to the stage to give her announcement. It's all yours, Susan.
And I thought I was going to have to introduce myself. I've been introducing laureates for 18 years now. One thing Mario didn't talk about, because I didn't tell him, was I'm also a walker. I'm a member of the American Volkssport Association, America's Walking Club, and I'm also an election official. And these two things came together last weekend. We were walking in Little Rock. We were walking all the state capitals, and of course we stopped by the Clinton Museum and Presidential Library, where they're having an exhibit on women's suffrage told through quilts. If you can get to Little Rock, it is well worth it. But they had a quote there from Carrie Chapman Catt, a suffragist back in the day, and she said, "It was continuous, seeming endless, chain of activity. Young suffragists who helped forge the last link of that chain were not born when it began. Old suffragists who forged the first links were dead when it ended." And that really got me thinking that this really is a chain or a path. And it didn't start with me and Anne and Rosalind and the Peace Center. It started thousands of years ago, and I think Rabbi Stahl could probably put an exact date on it. But I'm thinking of Shifra and Puah, who are the Hebrew midwives, and that's the first recorded instance of nonviolent resistance. The Pharaoh told them, "Kill all the Jewish male babies," and they went back and told the Pharaoh, "Those Jewish women are so good at childbirth that the babies are being born before we get there." So I think that's clever, and I think that's when the Peace Center really started, with Shifra and Pua. We're part of that chain. We're walking that same path. And there will be people after us, Mig and Neil and Julie and Eric, and there will be people after them and people after them and people after them, and all of us will inch through a bit at a time, but we're all part of that chain. If you know me, Mario talked about me creating web content, and I'm going to read some of it to you, because one of the things I do almost every day is wish Peacemakers a happy birthday, and we've got a couple of birthdays today. And the first one is Edward Abbey, who was born in 1927. He died about a decade ago. He was a well-known writer and environmentalist. And he said, I love this, society is like a stew. If you don't stir it up every once in a while, there's then a layer of scum that floats to the top. So following in Edward Abbey's footsteps, I'm going to be stirring that stew a little bit and watching the scum float to the top. Then the other birthday to celebrate today is the Australian feminist, activist, writer Germaine Greer. She was born in 1939, and she's still hanging in there. She's in her 80s. And she said, one may not reach the dawn save by the path of the night. And I'd like to talk a little bit about paths, because paths aren't always easy, and they're not always straight. And it is not always a direct line from Shifra and Pua, the Hebrew midwives, to Susan Ann and Rosalind, because we've had to go through the dawn. And I'm reminded of a Zen story. You see Christopher Kovida, I'm bringing the Buddhists into it. And there was a novice who went to a master, and he said, how long is it going to take me to reach enlightenment? And they said, probably 10 years. No, that's good. Well, how long will it take me to reach enlightenment if I work really, really, really hard at it? And the Zen master says, well, 20 years. And, well, what if I devote all of my attention to finding enlightenment? 30 years. And then the novice says, I don't understand. How come the harder I work, the longer it takes? And the Zen master replied, and I want to read this exactly because it is so good. When you have one eye on the goal, you have one eye on the path. And I think that's part of what I want to talk about, is staying on the path and doing it together. And not always to be ambitious, to look at the goal, to look at the end product. It's not our job, I think as Mother Teresa told us, to be successful. It's our job to be faithful. And so as long as we are sticking to the path, we are doing our job. Mig asked us to share a story, and one that I thought of sort of fits in with what Ann was saying. She and I went to a Lutheran Peace Fellowship, Lutheran Diversity meeting in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota, probably 15, 20 years ago. We were invited to participate and to speak. It was a great conference, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. On the bus, on the way back to the airport, we're tooling along and looking out the window and eager to get back to the warmth of San Antonio. And we see this big sign on the side of the factory. It's the factory name, and it's called United Noodles. And we thought, that's us. And one thing we did, we had a recentering every week for more than 25 years. We met every week. Every week we stayed on the path. Every week we met. And the first half of that meeting was reflection or prayer, and the second half was action or work. And one of the reflections we did, we'd all lay on the floor with our heads in the center. So we were a big spiral, and our heads sort of touched. And we talked about things looking up at the ceiling. I have a picture of it. The three of us were in there. I think Andy Friend is here, and I think you were in that picture, Andy. I think Cynthia was in that picture. I think Barbie Gorlick was in there, and I think if Barbie, Rosalind, and I got down on the floor like that today, we'd still be there. We'd never get up again. But we started calling that United Noodles. And as Anne said, she sort of stole my thunder, that we are so much stronger together than we are apart. That when our noodles are united, whether we're there laying on the floor or whether we're standing up here on stage, we are so much stronger than when we try to go it alone. I come from a very competitive background. If you look at being a nationally ranked debater or Model United Nations person, if you look at being in the Army, if you look at selling things, even if it's Hershey, you know, it's still very competitive, very aggressive, very hardline. And the hardest thing for me was to learn the power of working with other people, of collaboration, of stepping back and realizing that other people have skills, knowledge, abilities that are way beyond my capabilities and things I will never know. And just to celebrate that rather than to fight it, as I was wont to do, and to stay on the path. Northwest Vista had their first Peace Center event as Peace Day, which was in September, and Jackie Clonch read a poem then, and I'd like to read it too, because it's about a path. And the more I think about it, it's by Antonio Machado, and I'm not sure I agree with him. But let me read a path poem, because another thing I share, in addition to quotes and peace history, I looked at peace history today to see what I could talk about. But it sort of fits in with me going to the Clinton Library and Museum. The only thing that really caught my eye that happened on January 29th was Bill Clinton said, "I did not have sex with that woman." And that really didn't fit in. So I'm not going to tell you that. But I have given you some peace history with the Hebrew midwives. I've given you some peace birthday in quotations, and so now I'm going to give you a poem. You're getting and a story. You got a folk tale. So you're like getting the full Susan experience here. So this is a poem called "Traveler, There Is No Road" by Antonio Machado. And I could read it in Spanish, but I am a kind person and will not do that for you. Traveler, your footprints are the only road, nothing else. Traveler, there is no road. You make your own path as you walk. As you walk, you make your own road, and when you look back, you see the path. You will never travel again. Traveler, there is no road, only a ship's wake on the high sea. So I guess my hope, my vision for the future is we find that path. We all stick to the path, whatever it is, the path we make ourselves, the path we're following, that was started 3,500 years ago, the path that we can't see the end of, the path that we will never reach the end of, the path that will be finished by the long chain of other people long after everybody here is dead, long after their children and their children's children and their children's children are gone. There will still be people walking that path, and they will be remembering us. They will be remembering all of us for making that path, and that is my hope for you. Thank you.
This is the sound of voices three, sing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three.
As you just heard, 3 really is the perfect number. Rosalind and Susan, we love you. So let me tell you why 3 is also the perfect number. It talks about past, present, future, birth, life, death, red, yellow, blue, Larry, Moe, Curly, Bob Marley's Three Little Birds, triangles. We know that a genie grants 3 wishes. We know that we are mind, body, and spirit. The number 3 is harmony and wisdom and understanding. So now we transition to why we are all here, for the blessing. And the song that you heard is also 3 voices. 1, 2, 3. It's by the Wailing Jennies, and it's called One Voice. And so this blessing is for you. This blessing is for me. It's for all of us gathered in this space with all of our energy and all of our light that abounds. So I invite you, if you're able, if you're willing, to stand. And because peace is part of our body, part of our mind, part of our soul, I'll do some hand movements, and I invite you to do the same. So you can follow my lead as I will also do it to the stage. So Daniel, when you're ready. You can also sing along. So we're going to start with our hands like a butterfly clasp.
I see the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
So we're going to do it out. To receive and to give.
This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too.
So you hold one person's hand to feel the life and the energy, or behind
This
you, in
is the
front of
sound
you.
of voices 3. Sing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices 3. This is the sound of voices 3.
This next one is all of us. So let's see if we can all connect behind to the side that you are
This is the
remembering
sound
life.
of all of us. Sing with love and a will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
So thank you, and I was so excited to talk about the number 3 that we forgot to give the awards. So the awards were made by a wonderful, beautiful giving artist, Diana Kersey. Some of you may be familiar with her. Yeah. So she did it out of the generosity of her heart, and of course, as in Diana's fashion, they're beautiful. So I'd like to invite Jan and Jackie and Nargis to present it to Rosalind and Susan. Oh, yes, so let's not forget that. So we are at a community college. It was also her students that helped to make the design and the finished product. So you'll get to look at them at the reception. They'll show them to you. Sorry for forgetting. Those are very beautiful. So we're almost to the end, but I would like to invite our current president, Debbie Gaitán, and I'm so honored that she is taking the lead and leading us to a more peaceful, diverse, and equitable institution. So I'd like to invite her to say a few things.
Wow. Thank you, Meg. And congratulations to our 2023 Peace Laureates and United Noodles. I hope that we can carry that forward at Northwest Vista and that you would allow us to share that. I think that describes us well. Peace, compassion, togetherness, care, belonging, servingness. What our dear friend Dr. Laura Rendon refers to as senti pensante is thinking and sensing. And I feel here at Northwest Vista, it's all around us. It's alive here. And we feel it every day when we have the honor and the opportunity to serve and teach our students. I know of no greater honor and trust that's been bestowed upon this college that is nearing its 30-year anniversary than for these wonderful compassionistas and Peace Laureates to allow the Peace Center to live on at Northwest Vista with the Alamo Colleges by our side. So appreciate it. We're committed and we promise that we will nestle the pillars of peace and compassion in everything that we do. In our curriculum, in our values, in our mission, in our service to our community. And I get excited and am so thankful for those that had the vision to recognize that this is the place to continue that work. We endeavor every day to prepare and to teach our future citizens, our future teachers, police officers, doctors, child care providers, community leaders, city and national leaders. And just imagine, with this embedded in the curriculum, I get excited for our city and for our citizens, and the future looks so bright. But I also want to share that when Ron Nirenberg was a councilman, this is one of your quotes. They sometimes come back. And I'm so blessed to be able to stand here and share this one, and so many. He said, "It doesn't matter who you are or what part of town you live in or how you got here. You should have a city that works for you. You should be excited about your city. And you should believe that it is going to be better in the future for us and our children. Now, today, as our mayor, who is grounded deeply in compassion and peace, he's guiding us, he's leading us, and supporting us. And our future is bright. We are living that future. And it's a better city for ourselves, for our students, for our community, for our children, and our children's children, because it's rooted in peace and compassion. God bless the Compassionistas and for your wonderful work. We will carry that torch with honor. And thank you for believing and trusting in us. To Mig, to Neil, to Julie, and to so many others, especially Dr. Jackie Clonch, who is my hero. Thank you for this partnership and entrusting us. And I'd like to ask our mayor back to the podium. I hope that's not a surprise. And it's even more fun if it is. Thank you so much for your leadership. We're indebted to you.
So what do I do now? No, I'm kidding. Meg told me a little bit what I was supposed to do at this point. I am supposed to share a little bit of the origin story of Compassionate USA, which is a great honor to do that. But I think Susan sort of set the stage, because to tell the story of Compassionate USA, which is under development and will be fully launched in June, is really to go back to the origins of the Peace Center, which I'm told now extend 3,500 years ago. So I'm not going to start there. I will share with you a few anecdotes that I think maybe provide some intersections about why we're here where we are now. Before I began running for office in our city, and I was a new father and I was just interested in figuring out where my place was, I attended a neighborhood meeting. And it happened to be a neighborhood meeting organized by the Peace Center. I don't know if any of you ladies remember this, but it was my first experience in civics in San Antonio. And I was introduced to the concept of the Charter for Compassion at that point, and I became a devotee ever since. And so flash forward, when I became mayor, or shortly before that, I told Reverend Helmke, who I became friends with before, that if I became mayor, I wanted the first document I signed by design to be the city's Charter for Compassion. We hadn't adopted it yet. It was still building, and San Antonio, I think, was still, in international terms, an early adopter at that point. But it was important to me and important to, I think, our city, that we established from the very start of an administration that the foundation of everything that we would do henceforth would be on a foundation of compassion, recognizing that whether it's a policy or it's a budget or it's, anything that we would do as a public body, that we wanted to center ourselves in compassion. There's a lot of things that have happened since then, obviously. I think we were one of the first cities in the country to adopt equity as a framework for resource allocation to address the socioeconomic inequities that have existed in our city. There's a lot of work that's gone on in the meantime, and not the least of which, Reverend Helmke was just, I think, a year into the job as faith liaison. So the work of compassion began to build, and what I learned from Anne in those intervening years is that compassion isn't a concept. It's not a philosophy. It's not even a value. It's an action, and it requires us to build skills and exercise the muscles of humanity in order to achieve it. That's a very important concept, because San Antonio is also being recognized over the last few years as developing curriculum for our own community, training for Compassionistas, as you've heard referred to, people in our community who have devoted themselves to training on the concepts and the skills of compassion so they can spread it throughout our city. And I think for those of you who are, can you raise your hand if you're a Compassionista already, if you've taken the training? Let's give you all a round of applause, because It's one thing to be empathetic, it's another thing to be compassionate, which requires us to take action to address the inequities that we see and the pain and suffering that we experience. So I will flash forward now past the pandemic, and who can relate to that. We want to get past that. I was in a meeting in Austin having a seminar with a few mayors, probably about 15 of us, with the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who many of you know is a champion for compassion and dealing with the issues of social isolation as a cause of a lot of the ills that we're seeing in our communities today. In the seminar, he was getting mayors to speak out about their own experiences over the last few years, and what we recognized very quickly was that mayors have a job. We get to work, we kind of go about our business, but we very rarely have an opportunity to sit down and reflect on the experiences that we've had over the last few years. And what we recognized in that, half an hour of reflection is that we have been overlooking one of the key aspects of the experiences in the last few years, and that is we have experienced together as a community, and even as a community of mayors, collective trauma. That whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the racial reckoning, whether it's the economic challenges, the wars, the just complete lack of control that a lot of us have experienced, it has been adding to our sense of trauma. It's very important for us to recognize that and acknowledge that as a community, because if we're going to be able to deal with that, we've got to recognize it first. And if compassion is in our DNA, if that's a common birthright, which I do believe, then trauma is a common experience. And until we get articulate on recognizing it and addressing it, we're not going to get forward, and we're not going to pass the experiences of the last few years, let alone the decades of experiences we've all had as communities. Anne had been working on the side. I'm going to skip over a few things, and Anne, if you want to come and fill the blanks for me, please do. But the next thing I know, Anne has this idea and the strategic plan already developed, that we're going to take the learnings that we've had over the last few years of training on the skill sets of compassion, and we're going to take it nationwide, because this issue of collective trauma and being able to acknowledge and address it as communities is critical for our city, but it's also critical for our nation and our world. And so we decided, agreed, I guess, that our gift to our country from the city of San Antonio, a compassionate city, would be a free opportunity to learn the tools of compassion. And who better to help us do that and to actually develop this curriculum than Dr. Eric Castillo and his team here at the Alamo Colleges in Northwest Vista. And I'm skipping out on a lot of details here, but suffice it to say, a happy marriage was born. I am the chairman of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Center for Compassionate and Equitable Cities, which gives us a platform to really roll this out to all cities in the country. It will be free of charge. It's under development, and it will be, we previewed it at the conference in D.C. Just a couple of weeks ago, and it will be fully unveiled to the public and to all the cities of the world in June. I'm happy to say that down the road in Houston, a friend of mine, Mayor Turner, Sylvester Turner, who is also a champion for compassion, will be celebrating Compassionate Houston's 10th anniversary on Valentine's Day this year, and I asked him if he would be the first official city partner in Compassionate USA, and he's agreed. So we now have the city of San Antonio joined by the city of Houston, and soon to be hundreds of other cities in the endeavor. So I'm taking way too long. And now I'd like to ask you to view the trailer created by the Alamo Colleges here, Dr. Castillo, Meg, the whole team. This is what you can find on CompassionateUSA.org.
As we reflect on the well-being of our cities, our nation, we must acknowledge the impact of all we have endured in recent years. The people we have lost, the injustices we encounter, the search for peace, unity, and solidarity. While it seems impossible to overcome today's challenges, there is power in our collective ability to transform our communities. Let us not rest until we know we have done everything we can to work toward compassion, to bring our neighbors together, to learn how to heal. Compassionate USA is a 6-part learning journey designed to teach self-compassion and community well-being that honors our common humanity and affirms the beauty of our differences. Join a people-centered campaign committed to creating compassionate cities. The journey starts with you. The journey continues with us. Compassionate USA.
So we've got about 4 or 5 months. If you can help us now, spread the word, be ambassadors to this project. Make sure that organizations that you belong to, employers, schools, are aware of this website. Take the website and spread it as far as you possibly can. This is San Antonio's gift to the world. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to take one act here. It's a secret. I should come like with a sticker. And Mayor, you should have known this sticker before. But Susan, every time I get on an airplane, she will say, no. Because every time I get on an airplane, which is when this was cooked up on an airplane, I come back with yeah, and it's usually an idea that takes a whole lot of work. So just don't get me on a plane. That's the secret.
So we're very excited, and many of you signed up through Eventbrite, so we have your email, and we'd love to share our email and how to sign up, because I don't remember it because I'm up here and I didn't write it down. But we will be sharing that information with you. So as we roll out the modules, you can have access and you can be our pilot. So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for being a blessing to all of us. Thank you all for being a blessing as well. We hope that you mark your calendars for next year's blessing. So it's always the last Sunday. It's I don't think that I mentioned it before, but it is a Dream Week, part of Dream Week, and that's important because it is, again, spreading the word of compassion and equity and love across San Antonio. So please join in us for a reception outside. We also have, I know many of you have words for our 3 laureates, and there will be a spot where people are recording some of the meditations and congratulatory reflections that you may have for them. So thank you for coming, and we will see you next year.
And please come up and sign the charter. I'll lay it out here.
Now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's going to come. 'Cause out on the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train.